Israel continues targeting of residential areas across Gaza with 214 people killed in last 24 hours. At least 10,569 Palestinians killed in Israeli attacks on Gaza since October 7th. In Israel, the death toll over the same period stands at more than 1,400. Top diplomats of the G7 met in Tokyo today with the continuing war in Gaza high on the agenda. Here are the key takeaways from that meeting. The ministers unequivocally condemned Hamas's October 7th attack on Israel and its subsequent rocket attacks, and emphasized Israel's right to defend itself. They expressed deepest sympathy for all civilians killed in the conflict so far. The diplomats called for humanitarian pauses and for the creation of aid corridors, but stopped short of calling for a ceasefire. The ministers denounced the rise in extremist settler violence in the occupied West Bank and expressed support for a two-state solution. They also called on Iran to refrain from supporting Hamas and Hezbollah and to use its influence to de-escalate regional tensions. Escaping dirty conditions and overcrowded schools, Gaza families displaced by Israeli bombing are being forced to bathe and wash clothes in polluted seawater. Read the story from Deir al-Balah in the central Gaza Strip here. The U.S. House of Representatives on Tuesday voted to censure its sole Palestinian-American lawmaker, Rashida Tlaib, for her comments on the Israel-Hamas war. The resolution, which was backed by some 22 members of her Democratic Party, claimed Tlaib had been promoting false narratives regarding Hamas's attack on October 7th. She was also accused of seeking the destruction of Israel, a charge she rejected. So, who is Tlaib? Why exactly was she censured, and what does that mean? Anwar Ibrahim says Malaysia will not accept unilateral sanctions under proposed U.S. legislation to target foreign supporters of Hamas and Palestinian armed groups. We only recognize decisions of the United Nations Security Council that are considered multilateral, the Prime Minister told Parliament. Anwar said Malaysia would be closely watching the bill's progress, and its effect on the country would depend on any proven material support for Hamas or Palestinian Islamic Jihad. The Prime Minister has been at odds with the West over the conflict after rejecting pressure to condemn Hamas. Muslim-majority Malaysia has also been a longtime supporter of the Palestinian cause, advocating for a two-state solution. Palestinian mothers sheltering in schools for the displaced in Rafah, in the southern Gaza Strip, are appealing to the international community for humanitarian relief as Israel continues to limit supplies crossing from Egypt. Najma Al-Amwasi, who fled from northern Gaza, pleaded for help for her kids. Our children are starving. We urgently need flour. We implore humanity to show compassion. The border crossing needs to be opened. We have endured immense suffering because of the bombings. The fires of war must be extinguished, she told Al Jazeera. Crying as she described the desperate situation, Momin Al-Arja said she just wants to live a normal life like most people in the world. We cannot find food and there is no flour. People are waiting in long queues for water. We just want to return to our homes and reunite with our families, said Al-Arja. The Palestinian Red Crescent Society published footage of the extent of damage after an Israeli bombardment near the Al-Quds hospital. In the video, as attacks can be heard, Red Crescent vehicles are seen destroyed and streets filled with debris after nearby apartment buildings were targeted. As panicked people take refuge, windows in patients' rooms are blown out at the hospital with shards of glass on the floor and ceilings torn apart. Canadian poet Rupi Kaur has declined an invitation from the White House to attend a Diwali celebration citing Israel's attack on Gaza. The Indian-born poet said she will not attend the dinner, which will be hosted by U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris on Wednesday, because of the Biden administration's continued support for Israel and its relentless bombardment. I decline any invitation from an institution that supports the collective punishment of a trapped civilian population, 50% of whom are children, she said on X. Israeli jets targeted a house in Nuseirat refugee camp, with the health ministry saying 17 people were killed and many are still trapped under the rubble. Israeli forces struck a house in eastern Khan Yunis, southern Gaza, killing 4 people. In Shajaya, rescue workers managed to pull out the bodies of 15 Palestinians who were killed in an early morning Israeli airstrike. In Jabalia refugee camp, at least 15 people were killed in a pre-dawn Israeli airstrike. More than 1.4 million Palestinians are displaced either inside Gaza City or from the north of Gaza.